right, let's get into 1 Samuel 18. We're in verses 17 through 30. And who wants to give us their outline of this particular text? Anybody? 1 Samuel 18, 17 through 30. Who's got their outline? Anybody? Nobody. Well, I'll do mine then. Number 1, David loses Merab. Number 2, Michal loves David. Number 3, David lacks dowry. Number 4, Saul lures David. Number 5, Saul loathes David. And lastly, Israel lauds David. So there's the 6 points for this particular lesson as far as my outline is concerned. Larry would do his, but he's got this cough going on, guys, and he's struggling with that stuff. So, all right, let's go to number 2. Which daughter was Saul going to give David at first? Merab, yes. And Saul said to David, "Behold, my elder daughter Merab, her will I give thee to wife." Why? Okay, number 1, Larry says because she was older. Is that the only reason? Now, who is David? Let's get back. Who is David? He's a shepherd's boy, right? He is the son of Jesse. Not just a renowned family per se. They're not poor, but they're not this renowned family. They're not in the realm of politics and things. And yet, who is Saul? He's Saul. Now think about that. Saul, king, giving David, shepherd boy, his daughter. Why? Well, because she's the oldest. Well, that's part of it, isn't it? That's not the only reason. David had slain Goliath, and there was a reward that had been offered to the individual who slays Goliath. And part of that reward was what? Yes, you get to marry the king's daughter. So Saul is fulfilling his end of the agreement, is he not? And giving this young man his daughter. Is this an important step in the life of David? Yeah. Guys, what happens is it now associates David with royalty. Does it not? That's a pretty high position. These girls would be princesses, wouldn't they, of the king? And now I am the son-in-law of a princess. That's a pretty big step for a young man in the nation of Israel. So he was fulfilling his part of this particular agreement, and he was giving Merab because she is the eldest, and that was the custom of the day, to give the eldest. What did Saul urge David to do for him? Yes. Only be valiant for me and fight the Lord's battles. I'm going to give you my daughter, but guess what? I want you out there in that battlefield, and I want you fighting those Philistines. Did Saul already have a bad taste for David right now? Yeah. How many times has he tried to kill him? Okay. He's tried to kill him at least twice, hasn't he? He tried to thrust him through and pin him to the wall. And so he is not a happy camper with this young man. And I bet his giving this daughter, don't you know that just tears him up too? You know, it's not something that I bet you he just wanted to do. But he kind of puts a little attachment on there. I want you to go out and fight the Lord's battles. Okay? Very, very interesting. I want you to be valiant. That little word valiant means this: a force, virtue, valor, strength, might, ability. Had David already evidenced that kind of strength on the battlefield? Oh, yes. And so now Saul is harnessing that for himself somewhat. Notice that Saul refers to these battles as the Lord's battles. Isn't that something? The Lord's battles. I want you to fight the Lord's battles. Why do you think he would say that? Why did he refer to the battles that he's going to send him out to fight as the Lord's battles? Why didn't he say our battles, Israel's battles? He didn't call them that. He called them the Lord's battles. Okay? Okay? Folks, who does the nation of Israel belong to? God. It's His kingdom, is it not? These people have been selected out of all the peoples of the world to be His. This is His nation. This is His kingdom. Okay? Yes, He's allowed Saul to become king, but he's still the sovereign over this kingdom. And so anybody who battles against Israel is fighting against who? The Lord. Okay? And so any battle that Israel engages in is whose battle? The Lord's battle. Okay? Because it involves His kingdom. Now, the same is true with us. Isn't it? Folks, you and I are in the Lord's kingdom. That's not the same kind of kingdom as Israel was. Ours is a spiritual kingdom, but guess what? When you and I go out and you and I fight the enemy, guess what? We are fighting the Lord's battle. And we need to remember that. It kind of elevates the stakes somewhat, does it not? It makes the war a little bit more important. In fact, a lot more important, doesn't it? Okay? It's not just an argument with someone in a denomination. We are fighting who? We are fighting the Lord's battle here. Isn't it? You see, this is the battle for the soul of an individual. He's caught up in false doctrine. He's caught up in error. And we're trying to present to him, with the sword of the Spirit, the truth. And we're trying to convert this individual. We're fighting spiritual warfare when this stuff's going on. And so if we could get those kind of concepts in our mind, then it elevates the plateau of what we're doing. Okay? Remember when David went out on the field of battle, who did he know was with him? The Lord is with me. How did he know that? Yeah, the Lord was with him fighting a bear and a lion. Now that seems pretty average, ordinary day stuff for a shepherd, right? And yet, David says, it was the Lord who helped me win those battles. Okay? I think it's getting our lives, our mindset, understanding that we're in a relationship with God and all that we do involves God and His kingdom. Okay? And not just think in secular terms about things or earthly terms about things. So I just thought that was an interesting statement that he made. Now watch this. Why did Saul want David to fight his battles? For Saul said, "Let not mine hand be upon him, but let the hand of the Philistines be upon him." What does he still want? Folks, he wants the death of this man. Yes, he's fulfilling his responsibility to the covenant, isn't he? But it is an evil, wicked fulfillment of the covenant, isn't it? It's not because I have an obligation and a responsibility to do what I'm supposed to do. Oh no, I'm going to give you my daughter, but I want you to fight the battles because that way you'll get killed in the battles. Thanks. You know? It still evidences an extremely evil heart of Saul. Saul had attempted to take David's life unsuccessfully 3 times, folks. Twice on one occasion, the third, another one, then he threw the javelin and put the javelin to the wall. He believed that in enough wars the odds would be against David, and ultimately what? He'd be killed. Okay? It's not just me against David, it's now what? Thousands against David, right? And surely, in one of these wars, you out there be valiant enough, somebody's going to get you. Okay? And that's what he was hoping for. What 3 statements did David make with regard to his becoming the king's son-in-law? Number 1, who am I? Folks, David asks that question on personal grounds, does he not? David evaluates who he is as a person. I'm the very last child in my family. I'm not a wealthy individual. I don't come from royalty. Who am I to assume this kind of a position? What's his second one? Yes. What is my life? Here he's talking about his social standing in the nation of Israel. What is my life? My life's just what? My life's just down here as a little shepherd boy doing what my dad wants me to do. What is my life that I should become the son-in-law to the king? And then the third question is what? What is my father's family in Israel? My family lineage. My family lineage doesn't amount to much. I had a lady the other day send me a picture of my great-great-grandfather. She'd been doing some research and study, and she sent me a picture of my great-great-grandfather. I don't even know my lineage, much less anybody else care about Victor Eskew's lineage. Now, folks, if I'd come from a long line of famous people, such as the Kennedys, you think they know their lineage back quite a ways? I guarantee you they do, and they can name them back for you. Okay? We even know something about them, don't we? But you see, David says, what is my family? There's no lineage here. There's nothing here to tie me to Saul and to the kingdom. What is David expressing? Extreme humility, right? Had Saul expressed a similar disposition when it was time for him to become king? Yeah, at the start, who am I? You know, I'm nothing. And now David has that same humility, does he not? And folks, guess what? That's the kind of disposition all individuals have. What does God do to the humble? He exalts them. What does He do to the proud? Brings them down. We're seeing the picture of that right here, right? What's happening to Saul? He's being brought down. I've rejected you. What's happening to David? He's being exalted. The very teaching of Scripture is seen right here in these two men. How? Yeah, we'd have to go back and look at that one. It was more of an excuse than anything else because he just kept excusing himself, didn't he? Wow. To whom was Merab given instead of David? Adriel the Maholathite. But it came to pass at the time that Merab, Saul's daughter, should have been given to David, that she was given to Adriel the Maholathite to wife. So everybody asked the question, what? Why? And guess what? You put that in your little heaven book. Okay? And you go find God or Adriel or somebody, and guess what you do? What's this deal? Dave, come here a minute. You know, tell me about this thing with Merab. You know, y'all are all ready to be married, and all of a sudden Adriel gets that woman. What's up with that? You know? Well, guys, there's a lot of things that could possibly have caused the difference, right? One of the biggest considerations, most likely, was political. Okay? We don't know anything about Adriel, do we? And his position and his standing. Sometimes there were political agreements made between rulers that, or between people in high positions that caused certain decisions to be made, and oftentimes they involved the daughter of the king. Okay? And, you know, if you've seen some of these movies like Brave or things like that, you know, that's a kid movie, so you may not have seen that one. But daughters were used as pawns, weren't they? And in this case, we really don't have any definite idea about it. Okay, what do we know about this guy named Adriel? Very much. We know his name, don't we? His name means flock of God. We know his birthplace, Mahola, probably Abel Mahola. His father's name was Barzillai. Okay? And 5 sons are going to be born to Adriel and Merab. And all 5 of them will be killed. Okay? That's later on down the road in 2 Samuel, if you want to go there later. Okay? Which other daughter loved David? Michal. And Michal, Saul's daughter, loved David. Isn't that interesting? Now Saul has 2 children that what? Love David. Who's the first? Jonathan. And now a daughter. She loved him. Okay? I find that word very interesting. She loved David. Does it say that of Merab? Doesn't say that. Now, let's stop for just a minute and let's ask this question. Could God have intervened providentially on who David got to marry? It never says Merab loved David, but guess what? Michal did. Now, if you're going to marry somebody, do you want to marry somebody who loves you or not? You know? It'd be a little bit more pleasant experience to marry somebody who loves you. Okay? Rather than just some kind of a political agreement and here, take this woman. Right? Isn't that what happened to who? Who did that happen to? This man loved this woman, thought he was going to get her in marriage and didn't. At least not for 7 years. Ah, yes. Well, wasn't quite 7 years, but Jacob, he worked 7 years to get a woman he loved. And he got a woman that had a crazy eye. Didn't he? Okay. Now, he finally got the other one too. But, you really want the one you love. Well, maybe God's providential hand was in this to arrange this marriage. I don't know. The Bible just doesn't say, but it is interesting that Michal is said to have loved David. When Saul heard that Michal loved David, he was bent out of shape, wasn't he? No. The Bible says this, and they told Saul, and the thing pleased him. Right? The other deal fell through for whatever reason. Now remember, he's using these girls for what? To political advantage. He's using these girls to do everything he can to destroy David and bring David down. Now just think about that. Oh man, I thought that he was going to marry Merab, I was going to send him off to war, and he's going to get killed. Now that wedding's gone. And then all of a sudden, Saul, Michal loves David. Oh, hot dog. Ain't this the greatest thing? It says well, they didn't have sliced bread back then. False. It pleased Saul. Why did Saul want to give Michal to David? Ah, yes, so she would be a snare to him. And Saul said, I will give him her, that she may be a snare to him, and that the hand of the Philistines may come against him. Wherefore Saul said to David, Thou shalt this day be my son-in-law in one of the twain. Wow. Guys, Saul already has in his mind the plan made up whereby he is going to slay David. Did you know that? And it's a wicked plan. Anytime you scheme to take the life of another person, you are an evil person. Did you know that? If you scheme to just to try to destroy a person in some way, whether it be his reputation or whether it be his good, his business, you are an evil person. I don't care what you say about yourself. It's evil. And Saul is an evil man, isn't he? And he already has a plan so that she would become a snare to him. That word snare means a noose for catching animals, a hook for the nose, bait, lure, a snare. Wow. Unbelievable. Who did Saul get to talk to David about his becoming the king's son-in-law? The servants. True or false? The servants loved David already. Yeah, guys, this household loves David. Okay, why do they love David? Okay, he behaved wisely, did he not? Folks, David is a good man, isn't he? He's not only a good man, but he's also a very powerful man. He's a warrior. And he's humble, isn't he? You know? And he's just one of the common everyday kind of guys, isn't he? And everybody likes him. And so Saul takes that and he sends his servants to him to talk to him about becoming the king's son-in-law. And Saul commanded his servants, saying, commune with David secretly. You see, Saul knew about David's hesitancy to take who? To take Merab. Remember the questions? Who am I? What is my father's life? What is my life? What is my father's house in Israel? You see, he already knew of his hesitancy to become his son-in-law. So what do? Put a little pressure on him. David, this is a wonderful thing. David, don't you know there's about 20 million men in Israel who would love to marry Michael? And can you imagine the benefits and the blessings that are going to come to you because you're going to be the king's son-in-law? And just look around, David. Everybody loves you. Can you put pressure on a person to kind of do the things that you want to do? Yeah, boy, Saul, he's sly, isn't he? And he's trying to do everything he can do to encourage David in this action and in this plan. I put down this: sometimes all a person needs is a little push from others to see things from a different perspective. That's all it takes, isn't it? How many of us has ever been influenced by one or two people talking to us? You know? Man is qualified to be an elder, but he really doesn't want to, so what do? Y'all go to him, talk to him. Oh, put a little Saul pressure on him. Right? Go talk to him, convince him that he needs to become an elder. That happens all the time in churches, folks. You know, our friends put pressure on us. Our family puts pressure on us to do certain things. And so Saul knows that a little peer pressure goes a long way, doesn't it? And so they talked to him. What were they instructed to say to David? The king hath delighted in thee. You see, the king likes you, Dave. Wow. Jim? Yeah, we talked about that a while ago. Yeah. Yeah, I knew you were out there. But see, that first deal fell through. You know, he was supposed to get Merab, and then that didn't happen. And and David has shown some hesitancy to become what? The son-in-law. This is a big step. Just because the king offers you a reward, do you have to take it? You don't have to take it. Okay, you'd be crazy not to take it, right? But, I don't know. You know, the wife thing, yeah, there might be some hesitancy there. He just knows David's hesitant. So the first thing there's to say to him, the king hath delight in thee. Okay? David, Saul loves you. Saul thinks you're wonderful. Saul thinks you're just an unreal warrior and an unbelievable gentleman, and you'll be a wonderful husband for his wife. Number two, what does he say? And all his servants love you. Well, see, if you're going to enter into a brand new environment, see, he's going to have to leave his house now, isn't he? He's going to have to become involved in this household. Well, guess what? That's not a hard step. Everybody what? Everybody loves you. You know, when you get here, you're going to be welcomed with open arms. So you got father-in-law loves you, the servants love you. Or, what caused him to chunk the spear? What was going on at the time that happened? The very reason David was hired in the first place. Calm the evil spirit. Remember? Saul's a sick man. He's got an affliction of an evil spirit. And yes, he's trying, but he really likes you. You know, now the evil spirit and all that, yes, you know, there's a lot of things they could have said, you know, to get around that. I just find it interesting that David never says Saul doesn't like me, does he? He doesn't say that per se. And then the last thing they were to say is, now therefore be what? The king's son-in-law. Okay, so they just encourage him in the actual action that they wanted him to take. Okay, very, very interesting. Why was David so reluctant to become the son-in-law of the king? What does he say next? Huh? Didn't trust him? Ah. And Saul's servants spake these words in the ears of David. Let's see, obedient servants do what their masters ask of them. Isn't that true? You know, they did exactly what he said to do. They talked with David. And David said, seemeth unto you a light thing to be the king's son-in-law, seeing I am a poor man, wow, and lightly esteemed. I'm just what? I'm just a poor, lowly little guy in Israel. Folks, the servants acted as if this was not a big deal. Didn't they? That's kind of the way they presented it. David, don't worry about this. It's not a big deal. The king likes you. We like you. Come on, man. Marry this woman. But to David, this is what? This is a big deal. Okay? It was not like to David. He was a poor man. He was so poor that he could not provide the proper dowry to secure the king's daughter. He also says that I am lightly esteemed, held in contempt, disgraced, be despised, to be treated with contempt, to treat shamefully. Was he treated that way in his own house? Yes. His own brothers treated him that way. Who are you? Right? We know your heart. David did not have a lot of ego about him. Okay? Not at this point in his life anyway. What were you going to say? Mm-hmm. Right. Yes. He'd been promised it. In what way? Like I said a while ago, just because you've been given a reward doesn't mean you have to accept the reward. Okay? And David is exhibiting humility in the sense that I don't know that I deserve this, especially what? Being the son-in-law of the king. For him, this, and what we're going to find later on, guys, David, even though Saul hates David, David honors the king. Doesn't he? David holds this man on a pedestal. Okay? He put this man way up there. I will never kill him. I'll never touch him. I'll never harm him. I'll never do it. I will honor him. Even if he hates me and tries to kill me, I honor him. And he did. And so, you know, I think what we have a hard time with is understanding how David views the king and how lowly he views what? He views himself. I'm not worthy of this. And I'm a poor man, right? Guys, back there, what was customary? Dowries. What's a dowry? Yes, money paid in order to secure the wife. David was supposed to bring money to Saul and say, I will give you X amount of dollars for your daughter. How much is he going to bring? What's he going to bring? A lamb? A couple of lambs from the flock? What's he going to bring? What do you bring to a king? Jeannie? He met the prerequisite, okay, but dowries were, that was just common custom. You know, when you marry a woman, guess what? You pay a dowry. And guess who knew that? Saul. Saul knows that, folks. Remember we said a while ago, Saul's already got a plan for this. Doesn't he? It's almost like Saul already knows what's going to happen. He's not going to want my daughter. He's going to view himself as unworthy. He's going to view himself as poor. And so I've already got a plan for this. And guess what? It's to use Michal as a snare for David. True or false? The servants reported David's words to Saul. True. And Saul said, "Thus shall ye say to David, the king desireth not any dowry." See what they told him? David knows he's a poor man. David knows he can't afford the dowry for your daughter. And there's just no way for this to happen. Okay, so Saul says what? A dowry? What you talking about, a dowry? I don't want a dowry. I just want one thing. What was it? 100 foreskins of an uncircumcised Philistine. That's all. That's all. There's two. Yeah. Did y'all hear that comment? Easy enough to come by. Yeah. Here, just take me. David sets up his circumcision shop and the Philistines come running. Unreal. Two things that he would have to do. Number one, he'd have to kill them in order to get it. And number two, the foreskin would prove that they were Philistines, Gentiles, uncircumcised men, right? Guys, is this gruesome to you? Is this crazy to you? Me too. Okay? Unbelievable. 100 foreskins. But Saul thought to make David fall by the hand of the Philistines. David, you want my daughter? There's no dowry. All I want you to do, go get me 100 foreskins from the Philistines and bring them back to me. That's all I want. And David does. And what? Brings him double. He was a good doctor. Had a good shop. Okay? Brings back 200, does he not? Man. David was pleased. Let's see. I'm trying to just run through my notes here. True or false? Saul refused to give Michal to David as his wife. False. What two things did Saul know about David? Lord was with him. He knew his daughter loved David. What happened to Saul and his relationship to David? He became more afraid of him, folks. Okay? Notice this. And Saul became David's enemy continually. A point that I made was this. To become someone's enemy is a choice we make. He's my enemy now. We make that choice. Okay? And he made that choice. So very interesting. Did David continue to fight the battles of Israel? And he behaved himself what? Very wisely. Michael, do you have something you're going to say? Nope. Thought you had your hand up a minute. Anybody else? This is getting pretty nasty, isn't it? It ain't going to get any gooder. Not for David anyway. For us it will, but not for David. All right.